So you got some folks on the left that are all jumping around saying Trump is crashing the economy, and listen, what's happening right now? Like, these guys don't understand how this stuff works. What's happening right now is we're having a reset. I know before there used to be a talking point about the Great Reset, and it was mainly coming from the right. But anyway, this is a reset, not that reset. This is the good reset, and basically, it's things were really bad and they needed correction. They needed to be fixed. Trump, like he said himself, he said it's like an operation, and after surgery, the recovery can be brutal as your body heals. But if you didn't do the surgery, things could have been very bad. And you got to look at it, man. Joe Biden was doing a lot of damage for a lot of years. So it's going to take some time to fix the damage. I know people say, oh, Trump said he's going to be on day one bringing prices down. And that's definitely not going to happen now. But, that's Trump being Trump. He's a little bit hyperbolic. Right? You should only, when he says something and it turns out to be true, that's the things that you should trust. If he says something and it ends up not being true, then he was just joking or he was being hyperbolic. So you shouldn't get all bent out of shape because he said day one. And how's he going to do it in day one? Obviously, he didn't mean that literally, right? Those of us with common sense, we realize that he didn't mean that literally. And I know what's happening now is completely opposite from what he said. So it doesn't necessarily flow as far as saying he was being hyperbolic, because it's like 180 degrees opposite of what he said. But don't take Trump seriously when he says things that don't turn out to be correct or the way you thought. But anyway, bottom line is, Joe Biden did a lot of damage, right? And Trump is trying to save the country. And even if 3 years from now we're still struggling and prices are a lot higher than they were under Biden, you have to think to yourself, imagine if Kamala Harris had won. I mean, they would be even more high, right? I mean, if 3 years from now eggs are selling for like $20, then if Kamala was president, it would be $40. I don't have a basis for that. I just don't like Kamala. So, whatever, anything bad happening under Trump, I would assume it will be double with Kamala. It'd be much worse under Kamala. So that's not really a logical thing necessarily, but it's just, I don't like her, and she sucks. The Democrats suck. So, as bad as things might get under Trump, I would just presume that it would be much worse under the Democrats. So we're actually, glass half full, much better off. And it's I think the worse things get, the more it really shows us that we got the right president, because the worse it gets, the scarier it gets. You have to stop and think, like, can you imagine it being even worse if Kamala Harris had won, right? So the worse it gets, it's the more important that we actually got Trump, because, I mean, things are bad right now. We couldn't afford to be worse than this, right? And I know some people are saying, they say that they were saying if Joe Biden wins, the stock market's going to crash. Everything's going to fall apart, right? I know that was what was being said. And Joe Biden won, and it didn't crash, and it was actually a lot of records, multiple stock market records under Joe Biden. But that's because they were rigging the game. Everything was rigged. It was all rigged. And, the elites and the billionaires were getting their handouts from the Joe Biden and the Democrats and everything. So that was all fake, right? I mean, even though we knew about the deep state and everything ahead of time, I know people might say, well, you should have anticipated that the market wouldn't have crashed because of all the rigging, because you knew they were going to rig it ahead of time. So why did you say it was going to crash? How would it crash when the Democrats are on the side of the billionaires and whatever? I mean, I don't have to explain every single thing, right? The bottom line is, I at least I'm acknowledging that, yes, we said it would crash on the Biden, and it didn't crash on the Biden. And then when the market continued to break records at the end of Biden's term, I know we said that that's because of anticipation of Trump. And then now that Trump is president and the market is tanking worse than we saw in a pandemic, that's just because that's how deep, Trump is going in and fixing things, right? It's kind of like you have a bag of worms, and it's just so many worms that it's just worms. It's not even like something with worms on it. It's just worms. Like our country is just worms. So even though Trump said that he was going to get the prices going down on day one, which I know some might say, how is that possible if the economy is a bag of worms? If he knew it was a bag of worms, what was the thought process that he was going to bring all the prices down on day one? Again, don't take Trump literally, right? Don't take him literally. He was just joking, right? So anyway, it's a bag of worms. And listen, Trump could have done the politically convenient thing, which is just a little bit around the edges, right? Let me do some stuff that looks good on paper, right, to get the prices down on day one. He could have done it if he wanted to, but he saw how bad things were, and he was like, listen, let's rebuild this thing from scratch. So that's why, he's doing what he's doing. And then at the end of this, there's going to be a boom, because what's going to happen is a lot of these other countries are going to form alliances against America and trade around America and do things without America, which is going to alienate us. But it doesn't matter, because we're going to be bringing jobs back. We're going to be bringing back manufacturing, and we're going to be able to, get the prices down by manufacturing here at a higher cost, which would, in theory, bring the prices up. But it won't, because we're going to use child labor. We're just in Florida, where we're basically, the left wants us to use, these immigrants as slave labor. But what we're going to do is, the patriotic thing to do is, we need to give these jobs to Americans. So let's You know, we have a lot of kids that aren't working. They're struggling right now. Let's put them to work, right? 12 years old, 13 years old. I mean, if you can clean your room, if you can, you know what I mean? Like you can play basketball, you know, you can go to work, you can go to meat packing place or whatever. So yeah, so we're going to put the money in the hands of actual Americans, right? Get these kids to work. And with deregulation, right, we can allow a lot of this to happen. They're just kids, so they don't need as much money as an adult. They're still living with their parents. So we can pay them really low money. That allows us to get our costs down. So we're going to be able to do, you know, what China was doing, but in a better way, right? It's not going to be sweatshops, right? It's just going to be our kids. And, you know, they're going to be, listen, people say the kids aren't going to be treated right and all that kind of stuff, but the parents, like, you think parents are going to allow their kids to go work someplace and be abused? Like, if a child is coming home crying and like, hey, my boss did whatever, they're going to pull their kids out and have them work somewhere else. So anyone that's not treating the kids good is going to have problems getting kids to work at their plants. So yeah, so ultimately that will allow us to manufacture the things. I mean, even doing that is probably not going to be as cheap as it was before. So technically, I guess the prices wouldn't ever go down. I'm not really sure exactly how Trump was going to bring the prices down because, yeah, I'm not really sure. I mean, this is short-term pain for long-term gain, but even if we bring all the manufacturing back here, first of all, that's going to take a very long time. And in the meantime, a lot of people are going to lose their homes. Homelessness is going to surge. A lot of depression, a lot of suicides. A lot of small businesses are going to go bankrupt. And the young generation that are coming out of college right now are going to be devastated for decades. I don't know where the boom comes from. Because simply bringing back manufacturing, I mean, that's not, I mean, I know like having a bunch of plants, those would be jobs, but that's a certain type of job, right? You know, if you're a salesperson, I mean, what about all the other people that work in other industries that are not in manufacturing? I mean, I suppose like before when they were saying everyone should go into coding, it could be like that. You know, be like, hey man, you're having trouble finding work. Why don't you go work at one of those plants? I mean, the coding thing didn't exactly work out, but maybe this will work out. I don't know, man. I was thinking this is all making sense, but that was based on my feeling that there was going to be long-term gains. I just had a sensation of like bringing back manufacturing, like, yeah, bringing jobs back would be a boom, but I'm not sure where the boom would come from.